Here are 8 business principles used by the pros that I have found useful in my daily life, both personally and at work. Let's find out if they can help you in your life's journey as well. If you love this video and you've seen our other ones, please like and subscribe. Go to YouTube, give us a big thumbs up. The support will be great so we can continue to deliver more videos like this all the time.
All the great leaders, everybody from Martin Luther King to Steve Jobs, every single one of them, those with the capacity to inspire, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to the rest of us. Where the rest of us start with what we do, these great leaders, those with the capacity to inspire and lead great change, all of them always start with why they do what they do. Great leaders are able to paint a picture of a future state that does not yet exist, a world that does not yet exist, in words so clear that we can imagine it ourselves. And if we're driven by that cause, we want to commit ourselves to help build that world. We can imagine that, we can see it, we can paint that picture in our own minds. And if that's the world we want to live in, we will raise our hands and volunteer and commit to help to build it. It doesn't have to be a social movement, but great leaders, even in business, act like social movements. They give us something to believe in, they give us a future state that does not yet exist, and offer us the opportunity to contribute our hard work, our blood, sweat, and tears to help build that world. They serve as a compass. That's what they do. When organizations start with why, the response they will get from people who believe what they believe will be visceral. It will be deeply personal and in the emotional part of the brain. It will be hard for people to explain why they are so drawn to Southwest Airlines or Harley Davidson or Apple. They'll talk about, oh, it's the design, it's the quality, it's the service. But in the reality, it's deeper than that. It's in the part of the brain that controls behavior, but not language. The best they can sum up is, I don't know, I just love it. But the reality is, it actually is one of the things that helps them define who they are. Apple is able to inspire loyalty amongst customers and employees, and shareholders for that matter, because the way they view themselves is different than the way most other computer companies view themselves. Most other computer companies define themselves by what they do. They make computers, and everything they try to do is in an effort to improve upon that thing. Add more RAM, add more speed, make it blue, you know? Apple defines themselves by why they exist, to challenge the status quo. You know, power to the individual, think different. And everything they say and everything they do is to advance that idea.
If he's correct that all the great leaders, and I think sometimes it's okay just to be good, but the great leaders, the people that we look at and say, wow, they're great. I guess the reason why we say they're great is because they've made a greater impact than others. We know their names. We know the thing they've led or driven or committed to. But the reason why I've always believed, and I have a greater understanding now on why we know them, yeah, I think they did know their why and what their purpose was. How do we know that? How do we know it wasn't just work ethic? How do we know it wasn't they were just lucky? How do we know it wasn't just timing? Like, why was it important that they had their why? What I found to be true is because all those people that were named and all the people that we look up to in our lives that are nameless, all of those people that overcame, that succeeded, that arrived at a place that they were trying to achieve, that led a big group of people to a successful end, all of those people, they faced massive adversity. They face challenges and obstacles that probably me and you can't even comprehend yet. And if we're going to face those and overcome them and have perseverance and work through it, if that's the case, your why has to be so strong and you know why you're doing this. What's the purpose behind it? You have to want to achieve the why so much that you're going to be so singularly focused that you're willing to do whatever it takes no matter what. And I think what he refers to is that if it's just a what, anybody could do a what. We could go somewhere else and do a what. If you have an idea that you're trying to accomplish, if it's a principle that no one else is articulating that they're working towards, if you are so committed to that thing, the only people that are going to have their names known, the only companies that are going to become famous, the only iconic things that are going to arrive in our lives are going to be someone that had such a why, and it was so profound that those are the people that weren't willing to quit.
I wanted to make an idea meritocracy. In other words, not an autocracy in which I would lead and others would follow, and not a democracy in which everybody's points of view were equally valued, but I wanted to have an idea meritocracy in which the best ideas would win out. And in order to do that, I realized that we would need radical truthfulness and radical transparency. What I mean by radical truthfulness and radical transparency is people needed to say what they really believed and to see everything. I mean, we literally tape almost all conversations and let everybody see everything, because if we didn't do that, we couldn't really have an idea meritocracy. In order to have an idea meritocracy, we have to let people speak and say what they want. Just to give you an example, this is an email from Jim Haskell, who somebody who works for me, and this was available to everybody in the company. Ray, you deserve a D- for your performance today in the meeting. You did not prepare it all well because there was no way you could have been that disorganized. Isn't that great? That's great. It's great because, first of all, I needed feedback like that. I need feedback like that. And it's great because if I don't let Jim and people like Jim to express their points of view, our relationship wouldn't be the same. And if I didn't make that public for everybody to see, we wouldn't have an idea meritocracy. So for the last 25 years, that's how we've been operating. We've been operating with this radical transparency and then collecting these principles, largely from making mistakes, and then embedding those principles into algorithms. And then those algorithms we're following the algorithms in parallel with our thinking. That has been how we've run the investment business, and it's how we also deal with the people management.
So idea meritocracy, Ray Dalio. Personally, one of the most impactful books, the book Principles, that I read a few years ago. And I actually had myself and my leadership team at the real estate company do a book study around it. It was one of the most dense, heavy, deep books. It was, it might have been 500 pages. And we did a full deep dive into the book on the idea of what are your principles? Are they important in business? But the biggest idea that came out of it for me was this idea meritocracy, and to run and operate a company based upon this idea. And we started diving into it. It was one of the most difficult things for any group to go through, because what it meant was, how I understand it, how I described it to my leadership team, was we have to come into a leadership meeting where we're going to solve problems. First, come in with intentional problems, intentional issues to solve. No complaining, no whining about things. Bring the problem, let's solve it and figure out the solution. But with that, an idea meritocracy is the best idea wins. So how do you get to that? So that's what Ray Dalio was speaking to. Actually going through that process was very painful for some people. Because what that meant was, when you came into that room that day, you voluntarily said, I'm signing up for this leadership position. I'm going to be a manager. I'm going to lead people. The issue was, buying into this idea meritocracy was, not only am I willing to be wrong, the moment that I step through this door, I actually have to get to a place where I want to be wrong. And that's wild. As a human, who wants to be wrong? I didn't used to be. I didn't look around and see anybody else that had opinions that thought they were wrong. You have to enter a room, and the reason why you have to want to be wrong, because the only thing you care about is getting to the best idea and the best solution. And that's only going to come from one person, or an accumulation of pieces of perspectives. But you have to be willing to come into the room and say, I'm willing to be wrong. I want to be wrong. And if you want to be wrong, you're going to be in such a humble position. You're going to come into a room, listen to everybody's ideas, and everybody comes with that approach. If you come with that approach, if I come with that approach, we're going to come to the best conclusion, the best idea. And so from an idea meritocracy, the best idea wins. That means if there's 10 people in a room, 9 people are wrong that day. And you have to be willing on any of those days, on any decision, on any idea, that your idea doesn't win. And also, when you're the person that does have the idea that wins, that you don't feel like a winner and a champion because your idea won. It's the same feeling as if someone else's idea won. We participated in a task about coming together. It almost goes back to, I think, the 60s, back when JFK was our president. Ask not what our country can do for us, ask what we can do for our country. That seems to be an idea 60 years later that we aren't driving forward with. That's what, in my mind, idea meritocracy is. It's not about me. It's not even about you. It's not about any individuals in the discussion in the room. What's best? And then what I felt, what Ray Dalio took away, is you have to establish principles that you can actually decide which of those decisions are best. And so it's not a democracy. Democracy is something where everyone gets an equal vote. I think in an idea meritocracy, everybody gets an equal opportunity to share your opinion. And you have to be willing for that to be wrong and be happy about it when you leave. If you can get there, that's the extreme understanding, what I know in business, of business humility. And what we have wrong about humility so often is, humility is not saying that the other 9 people in the room are better than me. It's they're equal to me. We're all coming in here as equals. I'm humble enough to say, I'm not smarter than you, you're not smarter than me, but on any given moment or day, the thought was better. The idea was better. And if you can accomplish that with your company, probably personally with your family, with your friends, you're going to develop strong bonds, great relationships, and in business, you're going to build a great company when you're always right.
Whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, you know, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. You know, work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it. But you're never in a vacuum with no competition, you know, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. I mean, and so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm going to kick your ass, you know, and you're not going to outwork me. And so, you know, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on.
Mark Cuban. Listen, guys, obviously he's brilliant. The reason why I know he's brilliant is because we've seen him a ton. Whether it's on Shark Tank, whether it's on LinkedIn, it's all the social media videos, the accomplishments he's had. He runs an NBA team. The guy has just hit so many home runs that he has run up the score on everyone. He's in a league that most people don't get to play in. And so I don't know at what point we're going to stop disagreeing with the likes of Mark Cuban. Like, do you just want to be so right so that, like, you're more safe every day? Do you just want to think, like, no, like, that was just for him outworking it? No, here's what the simple outcome is. If you want to come close to achieve the things that a Mark Cuban and other business people similar to him, there's thousands of them, you just don't know about them. At some point, you're going to have to start listening that hard work matters. Not just hard work 40 hours a week. The issue is because everybody next to you is working 40 hours a week. Hard work means outworking others around you. And also it touched on about being smarter, about knowing your product. Yeah, that's very important. So guess what? You have to outwork them and know your product. So why are both of those important? Because there's always somebody that's looking to come take your business. There's nothing in this world that's handed to us. There's nothing that's given to us. And if you're the one person that something was given to you, okay, stop working and that thing is going to go away. You hear so many people hit the lottery and 10 years later they're broke and their life is worse. If things are given to you and you didn't have to work for them, you don't understand the perspective. You don't understand the principles of life that's required every day to get up and hustle and grind. And so if you're like, well, I don't want to outwork them. Okay, guess what? You're going to have the life you're already living. I don't want to spend extra time in the evening after my kids go to bed to like study on this next thing. I'm tired. Okay, guess what? There is someone in your marketplace, in your same business, that's going to do it. And you need to accept the fact that you're either going to do something to change your life or you're going to continue living the same life. And if you're happy, great, stay happy. But what I've seen as well, just because you're happy today doing the things that you're doing, working 40 hours a week, working 38 hours a week, working 20 hours a week, whatever it is, that same behavior in 5 years is not going to give you the same level of happiness. The world's coming. Your competition is showing up every day and you have no idea who they are. How do I know that? Because that's what I'm doing in my real estate business. That's what I did when I first obtained a real estate license. Everything that I have, everything, came from outworking everyone next to me. And here's the thing, if there is someone that actually is working harder, there's plenty of room for both of us. Give me a good group of people either working together on the same team or working, competing against each other. There's multiple lanes in all marketplaces for more than one person to win. And what's awesome is it is a space that most people don't occupy in the world of extra work. I'm not saying we're all wild and crazy and alien-like like Elon Musk. But go and look at his videos. One of the main reasons why Elon achieves what he achieves. Now he says, I don't wish this entrepreneur world on many people. Okay, but that's what he wants. That's what he knows how to grind and do. But what he says is he compounds his work time. If you're going to work 40 hours a week and he works 80, so you're mistaken that you think he's just working twice as much. Go back and read a book like The Compound Effect. Anybody know the rule of 7 about your money doubles every 7 years? It's not about the first double. It's not about somebody working 80 hours when somebody else works 40. Get out a pen and paper and compound what that looks like over 52 weeks. Over 52 weeks, somebody who works 80 hours a week for 52 weeks, let's just say you don't take a vacation. Do you guys know what 40 hours over 52 weeks is? It's 2,080 hours. If you work 2,080 more hours than the person next to you doing the same job, you know how much growth you're going to have, how better you're going to be, how you're going to be able to perform at a higher level. So that's not the unlock. It's not like this person makes 50 and by doubling the effort, I'm going to make 100 grand. No. The unlock is year 2. It's the person that you've become because you've worked at it for 2,080 more hours. That person in year 2 that doubled up the work is probably going to be 5 and 6 times more capable. 5 and 6 times better to go out and win in the marketplace. So why is all this important? Why should you go all in? Because do that for 3 or 4 or 5 years on any job, on any entrepreneurial venture. You will overcome every failure. You'll overcome every obstacle. You'll overcome every hardship, and your life will be something that you could have only dreamt of. So outwork everyone.
Failure, if you have the right response to it and the right attitude within it, is going to allow you to become successful. I believe that with all my heart. I want you to understand that failure is not your enemy. Never has been, never will be. Now, my attitude about failure can be my enemy. If I look at it in a negative way, and if I allow it to begin to damage my self-image and begin to kind of take me off of task, it can become a tremendous enemy. But what I want you to understand is that it's not failure that's the problem. It's my response, a wrong response to failure that's the problem. Here's the way this works. Failure works when you have a right response to it. Failure doesn't work when you have a wrong response to it. When you fail, you have basically a decision to make. Am I going to learn from the failure, which is very profitable, or am I going to leave and run from the failure, which is very unprofitable and very hurtful? If I run and leave, I never learn, and I just repeat the failure, and I'm not going to be success at all. If I learn from the failure, I get better. And if I get better, guess what? On the other side of getting better, improvement is success. So when I wrote the book, Failing Forward, I was just basically saying, fail forward. Every time you go down, just go down 2 or 3 feet further, get back up, make a little progress, keep failing forward. Don't fail backward, fail forward. If you have the attitude that I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to get better because of it, you'll not only fail forward, you'll find that failure teaches you so much and adds so much color to the success of your life.
Fail forward. Oh, doesn't he make it sound so fun and so nice and so easy? It's not. There's many people that have perspectives on the idea of failure, how important it is. Do you need it? Can you grow without it? I think all of us that have opinions on it, that have strong opinions on it, we're reflecting of what we've learned and heard from people like John Maxwell, what we've learned through our own life experiences. A guy like Gary Vee, I like his take on it. And we're going to have something about a Gary Vee take later. But he said he loves failure. John Maxwell says fail forward. Gary Vee said he loves failure. Both those things sound great. I'm going to tell you, I'm not looking for it. I absolutely hate failure. I hate the way it feels. I hate when it happens. Who the hell wants to have to grow and feel pain that evening or that day? Who wants to have to reflect and be self-aware and say, hey, I'm not enough today? Who wants to have a growth mindset? We might touch on that later too. Who wants to be resilient when you don't feel like it? There's many times in my life where I didn't want that. But I'm going to tell you that I don't search out failure, but I know it's an essential part of learning and growth. And I think what John means when speaking to failing forward. Failing, if it's a part of growth, make sure when you fail, you have the right perspective on it. What I want to see come out of failure for myself and for you and everyone else, I want to see some success come from it. That's what we lose too often. With every failure, find the success. A lot of people say, hey, you only learn something through failure. Yeah, I don't know if that's the truth. Because when I win, as long as I reflect on the win and I just don't celebrate it, I just learned what works. I think you can learn through your wins, but you can grow through your failures. And that only comes if you want to live a better life, if you want to become a better person, if I want to wake up tomorrow and be more capable to control my day and control my outcome. If the failure feels bad today, I want to make sure that I'm going to move forward in a direction where when I arrive at the same decision, the same action I need to take, the same problem, that I'm more prepared, that I've learned, that I'm capable of growing to have a different outcome next time. And so I would say embrace the failure, but I don't like it when it happens either. But I have found that the great things that have happened in my own life personally, and if you reflect on yours, maybe it's the same thing, is that the great things have come out of failure. Every business plan I make, every single business plan I've made, they have never gone to plan. So what do you have to do? Show resilience, a willingness to win, an all-in, a commitment. And so I agree with Mr. John Maxwell, and if you're going to fail, which we're going to if we want to win, fail forward. It's the best type.
So Vayner went from 30 to 650 people in 4 years, and from 1 to 5 offices, including London. And the way I've kept culture is dictatorship. It's just the thing that I care about the most. And so, here's how you keep culture. When Kristen in the office is upset about something and I'm on my way from Connecticut into New York to do a new business pitch, potentially worth $5 million, and I detour and skip that pitch to go and talk out with her that issue, that's how you maintain culture. Guys, life's very simple. There's the things you wish you were doing, there's the things you're saying that you're doing, and then there's the things that you actually do. The way you maintain culture is the same answer as the question prior to this. You do it in your actions. I don't meet with every single employee that works for me for 10 minutes, 3 months in, to check the box and seem like a personal CEO. I do it because in those 10 minutes, I want to create some sort of connection that makes them feel comfortable to say hi to me in the elevator or to come with a problem to me. I do it because I ask them where their hometown is so I can make a joke about the Cleveland Indians in the elevator to show them that I was paying attention. I do it because I want to know if they have siblings, how they roll, what interests are they in, because if I want to surprise and delight them because they're crushing it, that I can get them Coachella tickets, right? I do it because it has purpose. And so I maintain culture very simply. Dictatorship, my actions, and the number 1 and 2 other options are meritocracy, letting talent speak for itself, and then finally firing the most talented people if they're not willing to care about their teammates more than them thinking they're fancy. And my ego is so big that I don't think I need anybody that works for my company, and so thus they're all expendable if they're not willing to treat each other with respect and love.
Culture, wow. So many of us use this word all the time. So is he right? I personally agree. Gary is spot on so many of these points. So if you disagree with it, you're probably not attracted to a place with culture. You just want to go to work, get paid, go home, pay your bills, and do it again tomorrow. And then come say night, you're bitching about the place that you have to go back to work to. You're upset when you get in the morning and you're like, man, the only good thing that's going to happen today is like the cup of coffee I get that you're going to pay $8.25 for these days. Right? That you're going to get to the middle of the day and you're going to have to go get a break and step outside because the environment's too much for you. You know why? Because it doesn't have culture. So you can't want to have a place that has culture if you're not willing to participate in it. And so what is culture? What's culture in society? What's the culture of your family? What's the culture of friendships you have? I think the only people that can really desire to be part of a good culture are people who want to participate and think about something that's more important than themselves. And so, of course, Gary leads that way because he understands what a successful company looks like and does and feels. So what's culture? It's the way you treat people. It's how you get to act. It's the expectations that you have of the other people that you're with. And so when you come to work, if there's a culture established, either going to be a bad culture, that there's always shit talking going around the water fountain. There's always going to be backstabbing or back hallway conversations, or it's going to be like, hey, you're going through some struggles. I can see you're not taking the right actions. Like, let's sit down and figure out a way to help you work through it so that we all have the outcome we want. Care. That someone else's interest, that the concern, how they're enjoying their life, how they like their job is more important than mine. It's more important than yours. So often it's all about, well, I'm not happy, or they didn't do this for me. If that's who you are, you don't belong in a good culture. You don't deserve a good culture. So I think we need to be very strategic about what we want. Do we want to go participate in a good culture? Then help build one. Then be a good part of one. Do you want to have a job? Do you want to have a career that when on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, you're excited about preparing for the day tomorrow? That when you go out and have drinks with friends, you're talking about how awesome and amazing the place is versus complaining about it. If you find yourself complaining about your life, or about the people that you're around, about your family, about where you work, you probably are bad culturally. So of course you're not going to realize what a good culture is. You're not going to participate. You're going to build one. So it is essential that a leader dictates to their company, to the people that work there, that have careers there, the good culture that's going to be a part of this every day. And if you don't want to participate in it, go find something else. But it is essential to me. It has been so important of a word, of an idea, and I've said it so many times. If it's the last thing I do, I will defend the culture that I want to work at, that I personally want to participate in. And what is that culture? That everything that we do on any given day is to help the other person live the life they want to live. Whatever it takes, no matter what, all in, what can we do to help you versus what you can do to help me? It's a win.
Many business leaders may say, well, growth mindset is nice, but I can't just reward effort. We're a business. Well, it's a misconception that a growth mindset is the same thing as just effort or praising effort. Of course, the bottom line matters. A growth mindset is about how people can develop their abilities, how they can engage in a process that brings a positive outcome in maybe a more creative way than you even imagined. It's not about just effort that might go nowhere or effort that repeats the same mistakes over and over. It's about learning. A growth mindset is about learning, the growth of abilities through, yes, hard work, but also learning new strategies through instruction, mentorship, collaboration, and again, engaging in a process of growth and learning that brings about new creative outcomes. It's so important for leaders these days to believe in the development of every individual within their organization. We don't know where new ideas will come from, where new talent will emerge. It's so important to create an atmosphere in which people can thrive, in which their ideas are appreciated, in which they can collaborate, and in which they can learn from mistakes. A growth mindset says everybody can develop their talents and abilities, but it doesn't mean A leader has to think everybody is the same, or everyone is equally talented right now, or everyone can develop to the same level. It's just the idea that everyone can develop their abilities, and you never know in advance where they're going to go with that. It's very important for a leader to understand that it's not just telling people they can develop, having a mission statement or a speech. It's about instituting practices throughout the company that show the value of development and that reward development. So whether it's in hiring practices, in promotion practices, in evaluation and compensation, all of that should be organized around the growth of people's abilities.
All right, so we've got two options, which I love Carol Dweck. She's awesome. She's the first person, I think, that actually documented, I think it was the book Growth Mindset. She was the first person that I know of. I'm sure it was all the philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, they all were talking about this stuff. Every philosopher really talks about a growth mindset. So you got two options. Do you want to be fixed and stay where you're at? Or do you want to grow and get better every day? It's that simple. And I think there's 90-something% of us. Maybe it's 99. Maybe it's 99.9. Maybe it's 92%. There is a big segment of us that the inner desire is, I want to grow. I want to live a better life. I want to be more capable tomorrow. The problems I have today, I want to know how to solve them tomorrow. The only way that I've found that that happens is to have a growth mindset. So what's that mean? Well, she just told us. So what's a growth mindset? I think it starts with, do you want to be better? And do you believe you can be better? Are you willing to go down the path and start the process to learn to grow, accept you're not great today, be humble, and say, I want to get better. That's number one. I'm willing to go down the path and get better. It's going to be painful, but I'm willing to do that and go through this process and have a growth mindset because I want a better life. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better family member, a spouse, a parent, a friend. I want to grow and get better and not stay the same.
One way to think about it is just kind of basic math. Like if you just look at the numbers, if you were able to improve by 1% each day for an entire year, and those gains compound, you would end up 37 times better at the end of the year. And if you were to get 1% worse, you would whittle yourself almost all the way down to zero. What's interesting here is that everybody wants a transformation, right? Everybody wants a radical improvement, we want rapid success. But we fail to realize that small habits and little choices are transforming us every day already. What's interesting about this is that by measuring your progress, you get an immediate reward in the moment, right? The reward of like having a great stand-up routine 40 days from now or 40 weeks from now or whatever, is not, it's so delayed that you need something in the moment that makes you feel good. So if you do those 15 minutes, you can cross that off. That's a way to get an immediate hit, a little bit of a reward by tracking it. We often fear that in order to achieve something new, to become someone new, we have to abandon everything that we are. But in fact, that's not how it works. Change can happen plank by plank, board by board, habit by habit. And gradually, you can become someone new. With consistency and repetition, you can actually change not only your results, but actually your identity. Is because the more evidence that we have for a belief, the more likely we are to believe it. So if you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you believe that you are religious. If you study Spanish every Thursday night for 20 minutes, you believe that you are studious. The actions that you take provide evidence for who you are. And it's not that habits matter more necessarily on an individual basis. Each moment in life matters. But what ends up happening is that over the broad span of time, things that you do once or twice fade away, and things that you do time after time, day after day, week after week, accumulate the bulk of the evidence for what you believe about yourself. And so every action that you take is actually a vote for the type of person that you want to become. If you want to become someone new, then you can take a new action and begin to accumulate evidence for that identity, for that belief about yourself. And that the more votes that you cast, the more likely you are to win the election. You don't need to be unanimous. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You just need to have the body.
So 1% every day. I found myself saying that so often. Just get 1% better every day. And then you heard it. At the end of the month, you're going to be 37 times better. How do you even calculate that enough to know what 1% is? He's right. because so many people have just put their head down and said, let me just focus on just today. That's the answer. Don't focus on the 1%. What they're trying to tell us is focus on the process. The outcome will take care of itself. That has been proven time after time after time again. But then as a human, we don't have the confidence. We haven't proven to ourselves in the past that's the case. But what you do know is the person that you are today, wherever you're at professionally, however you are as a parent, however you are as an employee, as a leader, that didn't happen overnight. That was a compound of all the little actions you took every day. And what you learned that day, you weren't necessarily working on getting better. You were just worried about taking action. Let me accomplish this thing today. So where does the 1% come in? The 1% comes in at the reflection at the end of the day. The reflection at the end of the task. To say what went well, what didn't go well. Why would you participate in something like that? Only if you care about getting better tomorrow than you were today. Do what you know how to do today. Take action. It's going to be fine. The outcome's going to be okay. Because even if you fail short term today, if that happens, which it probably will, you're going to learn at the end of the day. As long as you're willing to reflect and to learn and to grow, you're going to learn, how should I approach my job tomorrow? That's how you get 1% better every day.
Everything we've done and all the success we have is at its root primarily due to the fact that we have put customers first. The common thread, and really what it is it's an approach. We have a very distinctive approach that we have been honing and refining and thinking about for 22 years. And it's really just a few principles that we use as we go about these activities. At the very top of the list is one I've already mentioned, but you'll probably hear it 10 times throughout tonight because it's so central, and it is customer obsession. It's customer obsession instead of, for example, competitor obsession, or business model obsession, or product obsession, or technology obsession. There are many ways to center a business. And by the way, many of them can work. I know and have friends who lead very competitor-obsessed companies, and those companies can be successful. You know, that's not a bad strategy. You have to be really good at close following. You identify winners when you watch your competitors very carefully. If they latch onto something that's working, you duplicate it as quickly as possible. It's a very good strategy in some ways because you don't have to go down blind alleys. If you're not pioneering, if you're only close following, it has some advantages. But it has some disadvantages too. And I like the customer obsession model. I think it's the right one. I think it's better than product obsession even. I think product obsession is not bad, but I think customer obsession gets you there in a healthier way. So that's one of the principles, one of the approaches that we take in every single thing that we do.
All right, so customer obsession works in the long term. Without a doubt, that's a fact. So you got to ask yourself what you want. If you're running a business, if you're a real estate agent, if you're an insurance agent, if you run an auto mechanic shop, if you're a florist, if you're a social media creator, whatever your business is, you got to ask yourself, am I in this for the short game? Is it a job to me? Am I trying to just derive some short-term income? Or is this a long-term career play? Is this a long-term business play? Am I in this to win? Combined with, what's your why? If you're in it to win, customer obsession will win in a competitive environment. Because what that means is you're so centered and so focused on what does the customer want and how you should be able to identify that. Like, Mark, well, how do you know that? Well, when you're the customer, what do you want? So look at it from the same perspective. We have to start looking at it from the people that I serve, the clients I take care of, the customers that are buying something from me, interacting, that need something from me. What do they want? What's going to improve their life? What's going to get them to the end of the transaction with me and have them think like, wow, that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Every time I need that widget, every time I need that experience, every time I need what that person has, there's other people that offer it, but I'm going there. And I don't think they could articulate they're customer obsessed. They can just articulate that was an awesome experience. And when you're customer obsessed, You are constantly, every day, fixing the process, fixing the outcome, fixing the product based on what you learned that didn't go perfect. Customer feedback, reviews, and then you know, are we winning because are our customers raving fans? So why should you be customer obsessed? Only if you're interested in winning a long-term gain, which I would argue is what pays the dividends of the life that you want to live. Well, there you have it. 8 business principles to live by. Hey, please go like and subscribe. Go out to YouTube. Give us a big thumbs up. We're going to continue to put videos out like this and try to bring you great content that impacts your life the same way it has mine. And also so we can continue to build the podcast and bring guests that are fascinating and help us all grow and learn.